Outer Wilds starts with a breath and ends with a bang, quite literally. Most people who've played hail this game as being one of, if not the most impactful and memorable video games ever, and I really don't believe that's over-exaggerating. From uncovering the never-before-known ancient history of your solar system, to being shot out of a gravity cannon, to a black hole in the middle of a planet that's being broken apart by its volcanic moon, and these fucking things. There is a huge variety of things to do and experience within this solar system. And yes, for those few unfamiliar gamers who haven't played this yet and don't care about spoilers, this truly is a completely open solar system experience, with every planet, moon and celestial body being able to be explored, while all containing secrets and story elements within. One of the main design principles explained by its lead creator being one of pure exploration but not tedious searching. If you can see something that catches your interest, there will be something important there. Likewise, if something looks bland and uninteresting, you guessed it, there's nothing there. Now, although I really do want to complete a deep dive into the absolutely incredible, majestic dollop that is the base game with a fellow YouTuber and friend, for me, the true place where all the best parts of this game and gaming in general shone was within this DLC. Now, I'll preface this by saying that I absolutely despise horror. And as you can imagine, this really isn't a fantastic view to have if you know even the slightest about Echoes of the Eye. I feel the entire horror genre is flooded with titles where the main character has not yet learnt how to jog, let alone run, neither fight or hide in any useful manner. They do things no sane person would do, and they choose paths no one on this side of heaven would ever choose. And this crosses over to any other type of horror medium. Of the few horror films I've watched, the only ones that have ever stuck with me have always been those with incredible stories to tell, just with horror elements within them. Almost every single purely horror-focused film, game, or media in general is badly written, badly paced, and filled with pointless suspense and cheap scares.
Nice.
This to me has always made the experience of horror way too frustrating. I like experiencing a character who I'm actually able to relate to, and especially if I'm playing a game, I do not want a character to make choices that I would never make and therefore suffer as a result of them. As an example, this was really highlighted to me with We Happy Few, where I stopped playing the game mid-first act due to me finding the character I was playing making every single decision I would choose not to do.
I'm sure you've only so many favours you can ask of him.
My God. You still hate me, don't you?
Yeah, well, I've only been wondering for the past 14 years.
16!
How could you?
How dare you?
Now, on the contrary, this is why I love story, puzzle, or exploration-based games, with my favourite titles before I played Outer Wilds being games like Dishonored, Minecraft, The Forgotten City, Bioshock, and Total Annihilation Kingdoms. My characters and the gameplay allowed me to explore and find out pieces of information and story without holding my hand or getting in my way. The characters I would be assuming control of were able to command powers or abilities or people based on my choices and decisions alone. Now, comparing this to the average horror game, which mainly is built upon limiting choices, abilities and options, you can see, even without the horror element, why I've never really got on with it. Now, but speaking of the horror itself, I could not, emphasis on could, not can't, play horror games due to my issues with overthinking, tension and stress. Now, don't get me wrong, I've never been a stranger to stressful situations, with me actually intentionally involving myself in them when I was younger. However, the stress from horror is from inability rather than my ability, and this plays so beautifully and terribly into me playing Echoes of the Eye. Now, from the first moment I managed to get into The Stranger, I hated it. What the fuck is this? Oh, you don't look at all terrifying. I already dislike you very much, and I haven't even met you yet. Oh, fuck off. Oh, fucking go shit yourself. I already hate this. This is a stupid room in a stupid cabin, and that's a stupid slide projector. Did I ever tell you I fucking hate slide projectors? Because I do. I hate how it closes behind me. Piss off. Stupid cabin. Stupid water. Stupid rotating device. Who even rotates? Get a grip. I hated the darkness, the overthinking, the potential scares, and later the real ones. Oh, you fucking piece of shit! I could not understand why a game like Outer Wilds had pivoted into such a direction like horror. I felt like all of this was just another spin on the classic horror, being tense to just be tense, using cheap scares and tension to get your heart pumping. I thought that it was superficial just to add in a horror section to the game. At least that's what I thought before I finished it. And then when I really thought about the main game, I came to one of a few realizations. Behind the sweet guitar strokes and beautiful worlds, there existed horror. The horror of the abyss, the horror of facing death, the horror of unfair situations, the horror of these twats, or the horror of saying goodbye for the last time. The base game had in fact been about fear and sadness and loss and horror, but I, along with so many others, were so enthralled with the sense of discovery and exploration, they only affected me subconsciously. I came to realize I was not actually seeing a pivot, I was just seeing a new avenue. And unfortunately, it really was something that I despised. The DLC draws you in with incredible sights, sounds and story, a new unknown language you have no hope of understanding, an impossible ring world that draws you in with incredible mechanics and a spooky atmosphere, and this bloody soundtrack. Other than a very lovely and definitely fucking appreciated warning that there are frights ahead, you have no idea what to expect. Now, I'm not going to sit here and explain the whole process of how to find the stranger, but I will comment on how even from the very start, when you see the darkness, and without any idea of where this will take you or what will happen, your only course of action is to plunge straight into the darkness, hoping that this is right and that you'll be safe, eclipsing the light of the sun, which has always been present and illuminating. They managed to add hints to the lore and final realizations at the very beginning without us even realizing it. And although I definitely could, I also won't talk in depth on how the game teaches you the Stranger's mechanics, which are honestly so incredibly clever, yet just expected from the Outer Wilds team, it makes me sick. Okay, well, maybe just one we'll talk about. The flashlight. Something that I did not even notice once in the main game was how the flashlight has a slight delay when you move. And yet, due to how dark the Stranger can be at certain points, you have to use it. And this single mechanic makes looking around a room, looking in a corner, and navigating in general a terrifying experience. And I very quickly became aware of this as the general theme of the DLC. Don't get me wrong, for me, and I think for the majority of people who have developed a love for Outer Wilds and watching others experience it, the single most captivating part of this game is how others experience and uncover its secrets and story.
What the fuck am I playing?
Obviously, that is due to you only being able to experience this once and wanting to relive this experience through other people. But to be playing the DLC firsthand instead of watching someone else play it truly was an experience I know I will never forget. So, like I've been hinting at already, the thing I really want to explore in the rest of this video is how I believe the horror within this DLC not only made it as incredible as it is, but also helped me conquer something I did not even believe would be possible. Following on from the same methods as Outer Wilds in environmental storytelling and puzzle solving via knowledge checks, instead of following the lovable and relatable Namai, we follow the mysterious and harrowing story of the Alks. Now, once you've watched enough reels and figure out how to enter into the danger zone, you very quickly realise that there is a missing Alk. This, rightfully so, was a masterful decision to scare the player shitless, always checking every corner, every dark spot, every new and unfamiliar room, but also to begin to teach us that our fear is what's holding us at a disadvantage. There's genuinely something that's fucking me, but one of the towers has an empty fucking space in it, which makes me think that there's one of those fucking creatures in this place. Where the fuck is it? And it's fucking with me, because every single time I open a fucking door, every single time I walk around a fucking corner, I'm expecting it to fucking jump scare me. Like always with Outer Wilds, it's your knowledge, or lack thereof, that is the most important part. When you sit down, roast a marshmallow and think logically, all of the other Alks are dead and completely decayed. Therefore, any missing one would also be within that state, meaning the stress and worry and panic that I experienced was absolutely pointless. And this, of course, ramps up to a 10 out of 10 when you actually finally get within the dream world. All the things that you've utilized as guides, support, or lifelines in the real world are stripped away in an instant. It's not even obvious or instantly possible to leave this dream world when you enter for the first time, which only reinforces how alone, separated and helpless you are. And yet with you, like the base game, are already the tools to succeed. You just don't know it yet. Now, based off of the slide reels, the first area that usually seems approachable is the house. In here you feel relatively safe, you explore certain mechanics, although there is definitely a moment that caught me, and I know a lot of other people, off guard, and does wonders in reinforcing that we really are alone in their world. Well, mate, fuck your slideshow. Yeah, fuck. You run around, gain a sense of understanding, and then you turn out the lights. Oh boy, it's about to get interesting. I, for the first time, was now completely in the dark. And I better be hopeful that I grasp those light mechanics because, well, if not...
Is this the wrong end?
Right, pause. Let's not get too comfortable with just recalling how the damn game works. The thing that made me want to make this video was how masterfully they created these horror sections and how they tie into the main angle and story of this DLC. But for the purpose of demonstration of point, I will go slightly into depth on this area. There are two main AUGs to worry about. There's this dude at the bottom of the stairs and this dude guarding the bridge creation device, although at this point you won't know that. Not knowing what is to be expected until it's actually there and happening was a fantastic choice of direction, as there's nothing about the original walkthroughs of this place that make you know what is coming your way. And it didn't help either that when I was watching my friend Darkdax play this for a small while, from the limited playthrough I saw, it genuinely seemed like there was 10 plus of them. Going through this area while light the first few times does help you to explore and see where your possible angles and ways around are. And sure, this gives you some familiarity for once you're going back through in the dark, but it is a completely different story when you're actually having to do it. So you draw away the AUGs from what they are guarding and move on. Simple, right? Not at all for me. I was terrified the whole time. My heart was beating at Red Bull after a 24-hour fast speed, and mechanically, I was absolutely terrible compared to how I'd been up to that point. I was worrying about how many there would be, where they would go, how fast I would need to be. But the pit of my stomach opened when realizing how horrifying the technique of drawing them away slowly and then hiding your lamp so they can't see you was. Implementing a necessary and willing removal of your final lifeline after all others have been taken from you as an important mechanic is masterful in creating that final element of horror on top of everything else. And I did not yet know just how important this was to both my experience and how it tied into the story they wanted to tell. And this was actually the point in which I temporarily gave up. I'm not playing this ever again. I could not imagine having to do more of that. Like I mentioned before, they felt like cheap scares and purposefully annoying mechanics, reminiscent of so many other horror video games that I had experienced when I was younger. It was only with the encouragement of the person who actually recommended the whole game to me that made me push on. I wasn't going to let some stupid AUGs ruin my favourite game. And you see, this is where, looking retroactively now, once I finally reached the end, I realised how these weren't just gimmicks. These weren't just simple mechanics or cheap scares to build up tension. These were all tying directly into the story that they wanted to tell. The AUGs were too afraid of what the eye meant. They angrily hid away and ran from what scared them. And yet to beat this DLC, I needed to confront exactly what was causing my fear. And even more so, once I finally made my way down and across that bridge and into my first forbidden archive and watched this slide reel, when I walked away from my lantern, it finally happened. You see the other side to this world, and you realise that all the fear you held onto up until this point can be mitigated from simply a different point of view. The terrifying darkness and towering owls patrolling behind every door, within every corner, suddenly don't even matter anymore, at least not to the same extent as before I found out this knowledge. When it comes to learning this mechanic too, it reveals something even deeper in relation to the story about how the Auks never leave their small enclosed world they create using the lanterns, hinting even from this point in the game how they failed because of their inability to see the bigger picture. The Auks ran. They hid the signal, imprisoned the one who released it temporarily, and spent the rest of their existence hiding away. Their mindset was narrow and full of fear. The DLC teaches you, through its mechanics and gameplay loop, by replicating that same sense of fear that they would have felt, and showing you that there is no need for fear in this universe. It's okay to experience it, but never to succumb to it. Like with the Forbidden Archives, giving you different points of view as to how to dissect the dream world, it's only through a different point of view that the prisoner was able to redeem their race and in fact the entire universe. Instead of being fearful of the death of the universe, it was important for the prisoner to see the birth and regrowth afterwards. And it's only by being shown that things are different to what you originally thought they were that allows you to fully overcome that fear. And this to me is why this DLC is one of, if not the best I've ever played. It expands on the already fantastic story of Outer Wilds, takes it to a new level in both scale and impact, and actually taught me how to face my fear of horror and overcome it in a way that was not cheap or due to my inability, but through purposeful meaning. The method of getting to the stranger itself might seem like just a way to explain how you never saw it in the base game, but alongside that is also the introduction of the mechanics built to replicate their story of hiding away and how you have to charge into the unknown to face what they couldn't. All the environmental storytelling that made me hate exploring and searching for answers was implemented on purpose to tie directly back into their lore and story.
Fuck, is it gonna get me? Is it gonna get me? I don't know.
What I felt at the time was cheap mechanics and scares to create a horror atmosphere for no reason, again, were all active design and story choices. It was all designed to show me and make me feel the exact things they wanted me to empathize with towards the Auks. And finally, playing directly into the mechanics and design of the game, the only way to get to the end and find the prisoner is to see things from a different perspective, fight against the fear holding you back, and willingly plunge yourself into darkness and trust in yourself and the process. Ultimately, I commend the game's ability to really show me that not all horror is pointless, and to change my mind from me hating it to loving it.